Hello, my friends. I have a great conversation with Colby Hall for you right now from Mediaite. Sorry I didn't get this up yesterday. Amazing hangout. I hope you heard that. If you're a subscriber, I dropped a link in the subscriber email. You can go relive it, listen to it, watch it. Just please don't share it publicly. That's just private for any paid subscribers. And if you're not, you're missing out. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Sorry I didn't get this up yesterday. Knee deep in the board of election campaign stuff. Working really hard on that up until Tuesday. The election is Tuesday. Check in on me Tuesday night. It's going to be a close one, I'm sure. And us versus the Moms of Liberty, Earth 1 versus Earth 2 in Clarkstown, New York. If you know anybody in this area in Clarkstown, if any voters, a few of you listen to the show, I know, so please go vote for our friends Irene, Christine, and Dana, who are all awesome. All right, now let's get to my conversation with Colby Hall at Mediaite. 15 years of Mediaite, one of my favorite places to get my news and find out the intersection between politics and media. Nobody does it better than Colby Hall. We had a great conversation I think you're going to love. Here it is right now. This is Colby Hall, one of my favorite guys to talk to and to read, and you're prolific, always putting a lot of stuff out. Thank you very much for joining me. Always good to see you.
Good to be seen. I'm always happy to be here, and I think about a lot of stuff out because Mediaite's mission has really evolved into being a place to go to answer the question, what have I missed? So it's a lot of churn, a lot of stuff. This just happened. And sometimes it's useful, sometimes perhaps not. We fight to live another day.
Mediaite is probably the site I'm on them probably the most because you do a great job of keeping track of what's happening and highlighting all kinds of things. So let's get to some of it. And you guys just celebrated an anniversary, I think. Congratulations.
Yeah, 15 years. Actually, July 9th was the official. So it's a little early, but yeah, it's been a long journey. And turns out the aggregation of third-party video clips was prescient. That's worked out to be a big part of our business, and it totally plays into the impossibly thin egos of, or insecure egos of on-air talent. So it's worked out so far.
Just pull that back a little bit. What you're saying is that when you publish and write about things that happen on, for example, cable news stations, you get a lot of pushback. They don't like it because I would think you can't have it both ways.
It depends, but they want us to cover them. We're the sports page of political media, and they want, for the most part, they want headlines. They want to know that they're making an impact. And yes, for the most part, you have a lot of talent that will flag stuff. I hate to say it, it's very influential in the cable news world, so that a lot of researchers, writers, executives, talent, they also look and they can see who's there. Yeah, it really appeals to the worst of everyone's own sort of self-obsession. We were just talking about, like, on-air talent wants to self-promote. There's a weird thing. And so if we're covering them, I guess it feels validating. I don't know.
Yeah, we want to self-promote, but we want to control it.
And I think some people are happy just to get the coverage. Some people are never happy and will just assume that regardless, they'll write the nicest piece about something someone said, and they're like, that's clickbait. How dare you? I was like, no, we just amplified what we thought. The argument was that in the sort of 24/7 cable news media world, politicians, their voices became less important. And in that vacuum, the thought leaders, whether at the time it was O'Reilly or Rachel Maddow, it was what they said and how they reacted to things in the news that was more influential than the elected officials. And so we would just track, like, Osama bin Laden has been killed. Great. Here's how O'Reilly reacted. Here's how Maddow reacted. And that, have we hurt America as a result? Maybe there's an argument for that. But we're not the only ones, right? Like, we're trying to be fair arbiters, right? We don't exist to be purely speaking to a left of center or right of center.
No, I think you do a very good job threading that needle. There's plenty of times I've been disappointed, frustrated, and even angry about things written at Mediaite, at your site. Yeah. But overwhelmingly, I think that you've got a wide range of people writing and covering a whole bunch of stuff. Let me ask you, though, just about the idea that when people talk about the ratings that a certain show or certain network gets, I feel like that's never accurate because I'm wondering if you know the answer to this, but I would imagine the vast majority of the views of at least a clip that often drives news are seen online. They might have started at Mediaite. They might be sharing that clip. Good for you. But they're seen on TikTok and YouTube. A CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News clip gets seen multiple more times online on the internet than it does at your cable provider. Is there any data on that?
Not really. Other just anecdotal. I think your instincts are spot on. Arguably, the most influential people in this world right now are the sort of Aaron Rupars, the ACYN, the Ron Filipowskis, Justin Baragona, who used to work for me at Mediaite, great dude. They're the ones that find, and I will say for the most part, they pull clips from conservative media and in the context of, holy shit, this is dumb, or can you believe this stuff? There's not quite the conservative video influencers that do the same, and for reasons we can only argue and talk about for hours, but I think it's clear. Less people are tuning into sort of their set-top box, and they're getting the outrage or entertainment or holy shit moments from a digital landscapes. And I think it's still evolving. Like, we could be having this conversation in 5 years, and it could be an entirely different platform that you and I are soon to invent and make billions off of.
Yeah, I could talk to you about this for a long time, and I'm glad that we do. I think it's super important. Let's talk about some of the stories that you are actually writing and covering at Mediaite. And let's start with the debate. There's a lot to say about that. You have some really interesting, important views on it. Who called whose bluff? What do you? They both called.
It's funny. I was just having this conversation with a senior executive at a conservative outlet who said, really gave credit for the Biden campaign completely outmaneuvering the Trump camp. And in fact, the word that was said was brilliant. They were brilliant. And that's, I think Trump basically, was convinced that Biden would never do it, a debate. So said anytime. And the 14-second clip came out from Biden on Twitter. And at the same time, CNN had a press release that went out, and the New York Times had a full-fledged article written. So clearly, these things were in the works. And I think that the specifics of the debate, especially the first debate, no audience, mics being cut, all really suits Biden. Now, the thing is, Trump can claim the victory because he gets the debate that he didn't think he was going to get. And what I think is most interesting is both the Biden camp and the Trump camp are so cocksure that their candidate is going to look so good compared to the other guy that they don't realize that they have no idea how this will come out. It could be that Biden comes across as really old and feeble, or it's just as likely as Trump. He has a hard time keeping a train of thought himself and slurring his words. And it's pathetic that these are the two dudes that were, these two 80-year-olds are the guys that we're going up for. But it'll be entertaining, and I think it'll be good for the body politic for us to see them side by side.
I want to disagree with you on that in a second. First, just asking you or agreeing with, I think that the controlling of the audience, there not being an audience, and Trump's mic gets shut off. Everybody's made this observation, but I can't see how that's not a major advantage for Joe Biden. And by the way, it's going back to how this debate.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
There should never have been an audience at any of these debates ever. There should not be audiences at debates, live audiences. I don't think I understand.
Yeah, have you ever watched those? There's that funny Simpsons clip where Homer decides not to go to church and he turns on the TV and there's this civic conversation. Are we talking redistricting or apportionment? And then they cut to a football game. Woohoo! Those old civic debates from the 60s and 70s, they were like dark studio. There was a moderator smoking a cigarette, and they were boring because it was supposed to be boring. It was never supposed to be entertaining. Cut to primary debates with these stages and these lights, and they name the candidate, and he walks out. It's shocking that they don't even have a fog machine. It's straight up WWE, and it's not. None of this is ever supposed to be entertainment. And I think Trump's candidacy and presidency is the sort of like logical conclusion of that trend. We end up electing kind of a reality show host who's a savant when it comes to manipulating the media. So yes, the last debate these two guys had, Trump bulldozed Biden and to his own made himself look bad. So you can see why the Trump campaign was like, yeah, let's do that. Maybe that's better for everyone.
The thing I wanted to disagree with is you said these debates are good for the body politic. I always agree with that for local, state, and federal elections all the time. Not this time, and here's why. Frank Conniff, the always cynical TV's Frank, tweets, are there really people who are like, oh dear, I cannot decide between Biden and Trump. Perhaps a presidential debate will inform my decision. What the fuck? The whole endeavor only exists to give pundits bullshit to endlessly prattle on and on about. I tend to agree with that. Who doesn't know who they want to vote for? Trump was already president. We know him. Biden has been around forever and has already been president. We know him. Is anybody on the fence? Or more importantly, if they are these debates going to be the decision maker?
I think that's a good point. And I think especially for those of us who are politically media obsessed and will stare into the navel of every TV and media analysis that's out there, I think where it helps the body politic, at least my argument, is that people consume media in a really predisposed, confirm my bias sort of way. If you watch Fox News, which is half of America of cable news viewers, you only see Biden in very cherry-picked, embarrassing, gaffe-filled moments. And you could make the same argument that a lot of what from Trump on CNN, MSNBC, what have you, is like the craziest stuff that he says. They take out anything that he says that whatever. So I think it helps. My argument of helping the body politic is that those people will, for the first time, get to see an unedited, unfiltered, like I've always argued that the best thing that Biden could do, I wouldn't say it now, I used to say that Barack Obama should go on Fox News because he reveals that he's not crazy. I don't know if that would work now for Biden for a bunch of different reasons, but I think Biden comes across way better. He reminds me of George W. Bush. He benefits from the soft bigotry of low expectations.
Yes.
So he's not going to be he's not going to be sippy cup guy that Hannity loves to mock. And there's an opportunity for Trump to show moderate viewers like maybe he's not he's not a fascist.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to prove to people who don't. It's going to be hard to prove to people who don't know or understand or recognize fascism if someone came to their house and waved a flag that said, "I am a fascist." But you make a great point.
That's fascism.
If they barged in and insisted that they could take over the living room to profit off of it, I can't go much further with the metaphor. But the point you make about benefiting from the soft bigotry of low expectations, certainly that was the case with the State of the Union. A debate is not a State of the Union. I think it's worth mentioning. But I feel like he really got a lot of, although, as you said earlier, I don't know that anybody saw it on the right, certainly, which is why your argument was it's good he goes on.
What's crazy about that is that the conservative media people are just openly talking about, was Biden on cocaine? Was he hopped up on
Tell me about this.
pharmaceutic?
I just saw this headline. Some congressman was on, I saw with Fox Business. I think I probably saw it at Mediaite. Wait, I'm looking it up. What?
It's a bonkers video in which he goes for 2 minutes talking about, you see him on the beach and you see the scar of his past surgery and you can tell that he's a puppet being propped up and that he's got evidence that he can't share, that he's benefiting from pharmacology. And Maria Bartiromo, of course, was like, what is this? Oh, no pushback. It just straight up McCarthyism of saying, I've got evidence. Oh, do you? So
Greg Murphy, Republican, North Carolina, here it is at Mediaite, claimed on Thursday to have evidence that President Joe Biden was, quote, jacked up on something before his State of the Union address, never actually specifying what this booster of sorts was and throwing Fox Business host Maria Bartiromo for a loop.
Trump even went so far as to suggest that he was doing blow. And, of course, they found cocaine in the White House. And Hannity he was on Red Bull or a pot of coffee or whatever. And it's hard to imagine crazy old Joe Biden doing rails before a debate is a funny image.
It's always projection. It's pretty well documented, I thought, that Trump has loved Adderall for a real long time. And it's also well documented that Joe Bidden didn't even drink. So,
but what's funny is Trump also doesn't drink. It's weird they have two guys. Yeah. I drink. So I think maybe it's a cry for help. No, it's the sort of preemptive, like if Biden shows up, it's the dumb gamemanship, throwing dice. He's probably hopped up on goofballs.
Maybe we're wasting our time. How likely do you think it is that these debates occur? It seems like a lot of smart pundits were saying, for good reasons, that they might not actually happen. What are your thoughts?
I think they will. You can't predict the future. If something changes, of course, but I think the Biden campaign sees the poll numbers not great. And I think, again, it was very smart of them to do it early because say it doesn't go well, it gives them a long runway to clean that up. But I actually think he's going to do way better than anyone's ever expected, and largely because they're going to cut Trump's mic and he'll be able to make his point.
Yep.
Now, Biden was always elected to right the ship and return to normalcy. In many ways, he's done that within the government, but the country is still half batshit, right? Not half. 30% is still part of this.
I agree. It's about 30. Yeah, I agree with your correction.
28%, 30%. And fixing that is a bigger task than any one individual. And that's a whole other conversation about people voting against their best interest. It goes back to Thomas Frank's What's the Matter with Kansas? People they're not well informed and they're openly duped. But I do think Biden will do pretty well in the debate. And I think he's looking to change. He needs to change the dynamic.
Yeah. And also the debates happen early enough. I heard somebody make the point that for people early voting, they would have had a chance to see that. And again, right. I don't think it changes anybody's mind, but it might motivate them more or not to vote.
I think they're fighting over the 10% in the middle. Really, right. You're right that it's not going to change 85% of the people's minds. But I have a lot of conservative frat bros of mine from Kansas, can't stand Trump, but they're hardcore Republicans. And they're like, I can't vote for Trump, but I don't really love Biden. They're duped. Good dudes. But I think that's what the debates will help figure out, that the 10% undecided.
I'd like to meet them and decide if I think they're good dudes. Bring them on. I would like to be invited at your next frat.
Golf outing?
Who's this woke asshole you brought, Colby? Bald
they would love you. They're nice dudes.
I'm sure. So let me ask you about the Michael Cohen, the Trump trial. You've been covering that obviously pretty closely. My main question, though, my first question is, I feel like MSNBC is wall to wall on the days that he's on trial. That's why Joe Biden announced, obviously, on Wednesday when there was the day wasn't being driven by the trial. But MSNBC seems to be covering it like at 8 o'clock. All their stars are on panel. I sometimes wonder if Chris Hayes and the rest of them are in on this, or if they're pushing back going, do you think we should talk about Gaza? I say I don't cover it too much on the podcast, the trial, because why would I? They're wall to wall on MSNBC, and several other outlets have tickers, New York Times, and so on. What do you make of the coverage? They have to cover it. It's hard to say they're over covering it, but what are your thoughts, and what am I getting wrong about the coverage?
No, I don't think you're getting it wrong. I think it's a very difficult thing to cover, because basically it reminds me of the old sort of ticker tape, like this coming in, because you basically see like blog posts get put up on text of what just happened, and then the sort of anchors will read it live.
Extra, Trump is sleeping.
Exactly right. And I think MSNBC has I talked to an executive there last night who said, our position is that this is historic. A former president that is on trial, and we are deciding that this is a moment in history that's enormous, that deserves full coverage. And that's a great argument. It, of course, helps that this is a conservative guy or Republican, or it's Trump, and the network viewers largely love. So schadenfreude of it is that it also helps. Gaza, Israel is a tricky story for a lot of viewers. It doesn't necessarily, the support doesn't necessarily fall traditional. It's a different paradigm.
Great point.
And so they don't necessarily need to get caught up in who are the bad guys. They're all the bad guys, right? Being pro-Palestinian doesn't mean that you're anti-Semitic. And also October 7th was an atrocity. That was horrible, right? So I think there's a smartness to MSNBC saying, like, we're just going to put that on the side and focus on this. I don't know if the trial is going to hurt Trump. In fact, it looks like it's actually strangely helping him, which shocks me, because it's clear he's a horrible guy who cheated on his wife. And like, lost in all this is this, like, he's complaining that the judge is making this salacious, this trial about my extramarital affair with a porn star. He's making it salacious. Bro, come on. I'm that's lost amongst evangelicals.
How can you make the most salacious man of our time long before he ran for president? I mean,
everyone tried. And the conservative supporters are like, yeah, he had an affair. He cheated on his wife. Who among us? What? No, there wasn't that long time ago. That was.
Listen, I think it's going to help me with a lot of guys that probably think I'm cool, but I think women might not like it.
That is the thing that I think that combined with Roe v. Wade. Yeah. I really think the women are going to save America from a Trump second administration.
And I think maybe that there's 5 women on that jury, and neither of us are legal analysts, and all the best legal analysts we know don't know what this jury is going to decide. But I'm guessing those 5 women don't like it.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot. But I would also say this. And I was talking to a reporter who knows, Paula Reed, who does a lot of stuff for CNN. I said, the sense I get is that, like, Michael Cohen isn't just unlikable, that he's got like a personality disorder. And she's like, that's exactly it. He transcends being unlikable. Like, he's fucked in the head.
Yeah.
Literally. And so if he's the star witness who has perjured himself, like, I think the defense will run roughshod. I think today, I haven't been following it today, but I think that's what's going down today.
We'll see. Yeah, I haven't been either. I'll cover it in the news. Let me just ask you this. Trump has been complaining that people can't come and protest. He's been begging his supporters to come and protest. I know you've looked into this. Is New York City keeping these protesters out somehow? Because, by the way, I could believe that. I could believe that in a sensational trial, the court has to be protected for any number of reasons. And in a densely populated city, downtown Manhattan, I could see saying you can't come in here. You have to file a petition or a permit for a protest or something. Well, you've looked into this. What's the deal? Because it feels like there's no demand. It feels like people don't want to go to jail for Donald Trump anymore. Just ordinary.
Yeah, I think, first of all, no, there's standard security. I think the guy who self-immolated ramped it up a little bit. But 2 weeks ago, when it was 2 weeks into the trial, ironically, I had to run an errand to go to Soho to get my teenage son some fancy clothes at Uniqlo. And I drove right through, and I was like, I made the bad decision. I'm going to be stuck here. Actually, wasn't that bad. It was a little bit, but it was like, wow, for all this armed camp that they wanted, I was like, no, I just drove right through Lafayette or Center Street or wherever this was going. And I was like, hey, so there's media people there. It's a little bit more crowded. Trump is desperate to get his rally goers there to, like, cause a stir. I think a lot of those rally goers, the guys that would protest, are convinced that if they go to New York City, they're going to get killed immediately because it's a lawless place. Because that's what the crime in New York is terrible.
Right.
Like, no, it's not. Yeah, you're fine. But I do also think that people aren't going to really protest a trial for having an affair with a porn star. It's not really overturning an election, which was bullshit.
Right. If you believed it, it's not bullshit. But yeah.
No, of course. But no, 100%. And that was really what's at issue with the Jack Smith case, which seems to be dead on. It's just
terrible.
That whole other thing, the special counsel being basically shut down until the election. It's really a true failure of the American democracy and American justice system. That you can basically game it so that, sorry, you're not going to have to be adjudicated.
The easiest criticism that I buy, whatever the last smart person I talked to, is the criticism of the Attorney General for dragging his feet so long. I think most people, even those who defended him, have come to that conclusion. And maybe things would have been better expedited. Obviously, the Supreme Court was always going to kick it down the path because of who they are. But there was
an overabundance of caution. I think there was we don't want to be too aggressive because that would look bad. But in hindsight's 2020, if they had done it right away, that would have been a tough. I think Jack Smith has been I have a friend who knows him. He's no joke.
Right.
He should have been named about a year earlier,
right?
At least.
I still have faith in him somehow. I don't know. He doesn't want to go down out like
Me
this.
too. He's the guy.
I'm an optimist. All right, Colby. I really appreciate anything else? Anything story that you want to mention? Did Trump fart in court? What is the smelly story that you?
I don't think so. I think that's, if you look at the root of those stories, it came from like the Midas Touch guys who aren't. They're fun and they will do clips, but they're not journalists. And I don't even know how. It seems dopey to me. Like I don't know. Like the dude doesn't need to like fart coverage to be painted in a negative light. Like he's on trial for paying off a porn star when his wife just has a 3-month-old. Like,
I fully agree.
You don't need the fart reporting. Well, it may be true.
I fully agree with it in this case. I disagree, and I guess I'm being inconsistent if we're talking about Rudy Giuliani. I want to know all about his flatulence because I feel like that's more...
The elusive Rudy Giuliani, the guy that the Arizona prosecutors cannot find to serve a subpoena. Did you see the story yesterday that the Arizona said, like, we've 3 weeks been trying to serve a subpoena for the election fraud scheme that came up in Arizona, and they can't locate him to serve him papers. Here
it is. CNN Arizona officials say they can't find Rudy Giuliani to serve him with an indictment notice. What the?
He's a scatback. He's slippery. Never know where he's going to be. Like, you see him and he's this tiny version of himself. If he wasn't a horrible person, you would maybe have a modicum of sympathy because he's just the shell of the guy he once was, but he's crazy.
One place he's not going to be is WABC anymore. His radio show, they kicked him off his radio show because of he wouldn't stop lying, and they were about the election and they're worried about being sued. Is that the deal?
Yeah, that's effectively the deal. Also, I think all these dudes, they have the classic rock problem. It's all they do is play Stairway to Heaven. It's the same song over and over again. You know what? Tuners, people are going to be like, no, the election was stolen. Like,
I used to think,
like, you could take a Hannity opening segment from 3 years ago and air it today, and people would be like, oh, is this new?
Exactly.
Like, blaming Hillary. And Trump is being taken down by the deep state and blah, blah, blah.
Which is evidence as to why I have not been nearly as successful as any of them, because I just couldn't possibly repeat the same thing over and over every day, no matter how much money someone paid me.
100%.
But it works. It's so effective messaging, and it somehow people listen.
That's what Trump does. And I hate to say it, it's a classic rhetorical device of authoritarian rulers. Just say it over and over again. People are like, yeah, he does.
He came up watching all these right-wing talkers and how effective they were, and he's copied them to a T, and it's been extremely effective.
Yeah, and we are amusing ourselves to death.
And Mark Levin called you specifically an asshole. Is that right, publicly?
Yeah, and I replied, I'm also a championship-level flag football coach. Thank you very much. That dude is just so thirsty for Mediaite coverage that he's you're a jerk, huh?
Oh, good. Yeah.
He's a tool.
Yeah, I know.
The thing about Mark Levin, real quick, if you ever watch him on TV, he has the worst body language. He refuses to look at the camera. The whole time he's looking down as though he can barely believe the bullshit that he's spewing.
He's had
a terrible guy.
Real hard time making a jump from radio to TV. The only thing that helps him is that wonderful set he's on. Wonderful set. Nice fireplace. But his face is real
classy.
Rough. And his performance.
It's classy.
Yeah. Yep. Real classy. And also, but yeah, he's a radio guy and she'd stay there.
Yep. That's true.
Awesome, buddy. Love talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having the chat. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Colby Hall, good stuff. Colby Hall Mediaite. Go say hello to him on the Twitter and say hello to me. Thank you for listening. Let me know that you heard this here on a Saturday when I dropped it, or Sunday, or whenever you're listening to it. Let me know. standupwithpete@gmail.com. Have a great weekend. If you're in your weekend and wherever you are, I hope you're okay. Check in the Discord chat platform if you are a stand-up member. People are always in there. If you're feeling alone, great place to be. Love you guys. Jon Carroll taking us out.
Oh, you better stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up off of your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense and you stand up. ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it is the time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up and show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up, stand up.